Okay, final video to do with the innate immune system. We are going to be talking about the inflammatory response. So this is where we tie together all of those cells that we've talked about, and we tie together phagocytosis, and we're going to link it to our next system. So what is the inflammatory response? Okay. So when we talk about the inflammatory response, this bit isn't in your notes because it's more general. So general kind of information about that. So inflammation is an accumulation of fluid, plasma proteins, white blood cells, when your tissue gets damaged or infected. So you could probably find, if you've got a scratch anywhere on your body at the moment, that you might have some inflammation there. So usually you get heat, you get pain, you get swelling, redness, and loss of function. So these are the symptoms of the inflammatory response. They are what is caused as a direct result of what the action of the cells within your body. So what happens is it's an interaction of the phagocytes, those big eaters, eating cells, and the pathogens, and it's stimulating this immune response. Also, you can get inflammation that's stimulated by your adaptive immune system, but usually it's the inflammation that then activates your next system. So lots and lots of steps, and I was going to hope that this was, I've actually switched around these first two dot points in your notes. Okay, so I'm going to talk through them one at a time. So you don't have to kind of go, whoa, that's a lot of information. Or if you do, you can pause, fill in your gaps, and then I'll talk through them. So you're looking at the picture, this picture here. All right, so number one is happening up here. You've got a wound. So here you get damage to intact skin. Now the skin is no longer intact. These little black things that are coming in here, they are your pathogen. Okay, so there's your pathogen. It sees a nice opportunity to get into your body by entering through a wound. So all of these are different types of cells, and they are bathed in tissue fluid. Okay, because we are not dry on the inside. That clear liquid, when you kind of are sealing up a cut, that's called tissue fluid. So there's lots and lots of tissue fluid around the outside here as well. And then you've got a blood vessel, probably a capillary. You can see inside it, you've got red blood cells, and so on. But the first step that's going to happen, if I can get this to work for me at the moment, fun, here we go. So the first thing that's going to happen is that your injured cells, yeah, the ones that are at the top of this wound up here at number one, they're going to release cytokines. So that is this bit number two down here. So they're releasing these cytokines down into your body. Now, the other thing is the pathogen is now making it past the first barriers. So I think I've got this as the first step in your notes. So you might want to fill that in. So it makes it past the physical barriers, it makes it past the chemical barriers, or it makes it past our microbiological barriers. So the very first cells that are injured at the top there, they have to go, oh no, help me, help me. And so they release cytokines. Now what those cytokines do is they do a whole bunch of different things. They have to signal lots of different cells. So the first step that we've got here is that they're going to signal these mast cells in the middle here. So these mast cells are going to release histamines. So what did we say the histamines did? The mast cells release the histamine. It increases blood vessel dilation and permeability. And what that means is your blood vessels start to get, blood vessel dilation means they get wider, and these neutrophils and so on can come out. Okay, so we need to make sure that we get that widening of your blood vessels to allow those other ones to, those other white blood cells to come out. And so this is where we start to attack them. So at the moment it's just been all, oh no, something's gone wrong. Now we're going to start to attack them. So the neutrophils are activated, and they also release cytokines. So there's more cytokines. There's lots of different types of cytokines. So they also release cytokines and recruit macrophages. So now you're starting to get these cells that are coming towards the wound. So the macrophages also release cytokines, and then they start to do the phagocytosis. So what you can see here is these neutrophils are coming towards, they are doing phagocytosis, the macrophages are doing phagocytosis, there are more and more cytokines. So there's lots and lots and lots of cytokines floating around, activating more cells. Yeah, if you get more cytokines, they're going to activate more mast cells. You're going to get more blood vessel dilation, more cells coming out. Yeah, and it's just kind of like ongoing effect, constant, constant, constant. So when you first cut yourself, you notice that there's not much swelling. After an hour or so, you get lots and lots of swelling. And what is that swelling caused by? Dead lymphocytes, dead pathogens, cell debris. Essentially, it's like if you've watched Game of Thrones, what's the name of that episode? Hang on, I'm just going to have to pause and find it. So bear with me. This is going to be a little bit gory. If you don't like gore, turn away. But you can see all of these soldiers and there's all of these dead bodies, and that is what's happening inside your body. You've got all of these dead soldiers. Oh, no, there's another one. Oh, and they build up and up and up, and these bodies of dead white blood cells are left behind. So coming back to this, the pus is like all of the bodies in Game of Thrones. All right. So this response is just going to continue until either the pathogen is eliminated or mostly eliminated, and the wound is healed. So the other thing that's in this picture that we haven't talked about is the presence of these little guys called platelets. So all the way back, these guys are broken cell parts, and their job is to form clots. So the thing with the inflammatory response is that it's not as easy as going, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Essentially, after the wound has been created, everything kind of kicks into gear. It's mostly driven by the cytokines. So the cytokines are going to release the signaling molecules, and they're going to do a couple of things. The cytokines can attract macrophages, or they can attract neutrophils. The cytokines can also attract mast cells. Okay, so their whole job is to do attraction of those cells that we were talking about in the last video. Once they've been attracted, then they kick into gear. So the mast cells are going to release histamine. The histamine is going to dilate your blood vessels and allow more cells to enter the area. The neutrophils and the macrophages are going to do some phagocytosis. Yeah, so that's what we're meaning. It's not really a series of steps. They kind of keep going on and on and on. But that is a process that you need to kind of work through. You need to draw yourself, all of these things to help practice. The last little bit when we talk about the inflammatory response is there's often this generation of heat. And this is what we're talking about with coronavirus. Why does our body get hot with a fever? Now, the big, big point of a fever is you want to slow down the replication of bacteria, and viruses. If you can slow down their replication, then you're removing them from their optimum temperature. Therefore, the rate of reaction is going to be decreased. So giving our body more time to mount a defense against them. So that's more time to mount a defense. So if you get a small increase in temperature, it allows your leukocytes or your white blood cells to work more efficiently, which is pretty cool, whilst also slowing down your viruses and general pathogens. So this is an option, and if you want to complete it, you can complete it. You can send it to me. On page number 10, there is a story of the immune response. I think drawing this process really does help consolidate it, but if you don't have time to do that because you are doing a whole bunch of other work at the moment, you might want to leave this for later on. I don't mind, but I'd love to see what you can produce. It doesn't have to be an artwork. It can be stick figures. You can make things look different. So I like to make my mast cells look like this. You can make your macrophages look like big blobs. You can make your neutrophils have a little label on them that says fill. Anything you want, really. It doesn't really matter, but it's about working through the process over and over again. And also you can complete the end of chapter questions for 7.2. Yay. Bye.